Hello everyone and welcome to this week's live stream. Today I'm joined by some wonderful guests and the topic is going to be leadership level discussions. We've got some of your recent questions as well as giving you an update on some of the topics that were previously discussed at the last leadership live stream, which was quite a while back now, in December I believe, so well overdue. I'm obviously your host, Mod Ayiza, and today I'm joined by Mod Markos and Mod Kieren.
Hello.
Hey both. Seeing as it's been a little bit of a while, maybe we've got a few new viewers since then, maybe it's worthwhile that as part of my usual how you doing, what you've been up to today, if you could also maybe tell people what you do at Oldschool within the team. And we start with you, Markos.
Yeah, so I'm the executive producer in the game, so that means I'm broadly responsible for how the whole game runs. So I work very closely with Mod Ayiza and Mod Kieren in terms of on the day-to-day things around kind of the updates we're working on the community response and so on.
Awesome, thank you. You done anything interesting this week? You want to share with the community?
I don't know. A lot of my work involves PowerPoints and spreadsheets, so it may not be that interesting if I go into it in detail.
Okay, yeah, we'll save that for a data live stream maybe.
Oh yes.
In the future. Thank you, Markos. And how about yourself, Kieren? You want to hit things off with your little intro?
Oh, I'm good. I've got a real question though. Is it Markos or Markos?
Well, that's the eternal question.
Yeah. Who knows? But no, I'm good. It's been a fun week. I've been in a lot of different things. Some final raids playtests because that's the hype next week. It's Wednesday or today, right? Wednesday next week. This time next week, Tombs of a Mascot's going to be out. That's kind of... Oh, it's Thursday today. Oh my god. That tells you a lot, doesn't it? 6 days to go!
Nice one. And Kieren, just for those who might not be familiar, although I'd hope that they are, what do you do in Oldschool?
So I'm the Associate Design Director. Essentially, I'm heading up our game design team, which many of you may recognize as content developers. So we're responsible for sort of designing most of the game's features. And for me, I'm thinking about the sort of longer term view, what we're doing with the roadmap, the balance of the content we offer, and what we're trying to achieve with the different things we add to the game.
Awesome, thank you. I'll wrap it up for myself. I've been helping out this week with some of the comm stuff that we've been getting out. Let me check, is it an announcement? Oh, it's not in the announcements because it's so fresh. We didn't get to update it, but we today released the Wilderness Boss rework blog for the first time since we first spoke about it many years ago. So fantastic to see that finally out the doors, and seems to be going pretty well, at least within the PvP community. So that's something. We've hit the mark there. But for me and what I do in Oldschool, I'm the lead community manager, so I head up the community management team, being Mods Light, Sani, and Goblin, who are all fantastic, and we deal with all of your kind of like feedback, concerns, comments, and such, and write the blogs and put some really interesting and questionable puns in them at times too. All right, before we kick things off, we've got a lot of juicy questions today, but I've got some announcements that I want to get through first and foremost. If you haven't already realized that there's no game update this week, and that's because we're preparing for Oldschool's newest raid, Tombs of a Mascot. !info TOA to learn everything you need to know about Tombs of a Mascot. There's a blog that details out all the key points, bits of information that we've shared out around, and after this stream, we may also have something else coming out TO related, so check out our YouTube channel in an hour or so. Definitely not one that you want to be missing. We also have, in addition to information TOA, !TOA just on its own. And that's so that you can check out our brand new developer diary for Raids 3. It features some conversations with some of the mods that have worked on Tombs of a Mascot, as well as some of the players that we had involved in the playtest. I think it's a really good video. Definitely watch it. There's some nice, interesting leaks, so to speak, in terms of the raid in there too. So if you've not seen anything in terms of it, definitely check it out. Some areas and environments that are really awesome, and it shows off some of the fantastic fantastic work that art team have done too. And then lastly, we have !WBR, and here's the announcement that I failed to read just a moment ago. WBR stands for Wilderness Boss Rework. So they are obviously due a little TLC. You can check out our first design blog for the upcoming Wilderness Boss Rework with !WBR. Please let us know what your thoughts are in regards to it. We've got a link for a survey at the very bottom of the blog. That doesn't mean skip to the end and click the button. It means go from the top all the way through. Make sure you read it all. There's a lot of detail in there, a lot of points that we've covered. Understand it's a lot to take in. Take your time with it. Fill the survey out afterwards. It will take about 5 or 10 minutes, and hopefully we'll be able to action your feedback, and we'll see those coming to the game soon. Right, now that's out of the way, let's get into it. We've got some questions. Now, the first section, because it's so fresh off the whatever it is about fresh start servers, or fresh start worlds as we've done them. So we've got a couple around that, and then we'll move on to some more general questions. We'll also hopefully cover issues around server stability, as well as the roadmap, Runefest, Summer Summit, areas like that. And then if we have time, we do also have some questions around account security as well. First question we have here is around the why. Why are we implementing fresh start servers? Who are they for? And how does it benefit the game and the player base? Now, most of this should have hopefully been covered in the FAQ, but to reiterate, the why at least, essentially we did some research. You may have seen a survey that we put out, and that indicated that this type of fresh start servers could be quite appealing to those players. And given the fact that they require minimal dev time, we just essentially thought, why don't we test out the theory and see whether we're right or not? In terms of the who, I think this is a really important one to cover. It's definitely a large topic of conversation within the community. Ultimately, fresh start worlds, they're aimed at new players or players who haven't been on old school for a very long time. It's not intended to be content that attracts you away from the main game if you're currently playing the main game. I'm sure there are definitely going to be draws to it. Some people will want to fight for the high scores and just experience that fresh start element. But it is ultimately aimed at people who don't currently play, don't currently have existing accounts. And I think one of the things that's really been overlooked is just the power of having so many people at the same stage of the game together. If you were to throw a long kind of like lapsed, and by that we mean someone who's not played for a very long time, a returning player back into the current game, and they're just met with heaps of players who are high level, they've got so much gear, and they go to an earlier area of the game, it's going to have so much less activity. And Fresh Start Worlds, they offer an opportunity for essentially like-minded players who are at a very similar level of experience and progression, because they'll all be starting again, to play together and experience that without the interruption of much higher level players. I'm sure you've seen it before, there are people who will stand out at Lumbridge and it's lovely to see, but being handed out, hundreds of K's worth of gear to start off your journey at day one, when really it's actually quite an open and so many things that you can do in RuneScape as it is, it just adds extra confusion at times. And in terms of the benefits, well, new players come into the game, it's always a good thing, right? It helps us also identify any pain points better than we are at the moment in the early stages of progression, because this is something that would hopefully cause a lot of new players to come into the game at one moment, as opposed to them trickling in and their feedback being lost. So from a CM perspective, selfishly, I'm hopeful that it will help us identify that so that we can look to improve on it for future new players. Markos or Kieren, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that at all. I know we've got a bunch more questions regarding it, but
yeah,
feel free.
I could add a little bit more. My perspective. I've been reading a lot of, obviously, the comments posted on Reddit, on social media, across the internet. And obviously, I'll give a little insight into sort of my thinking on what we're trying to do with Old School's Fresh Start Worlds. And I think one of the issues with, I don't know what's happening to your green screen, Ayiza, but it's quite funny. One of the issues with
dog is
Old School,
asleep on it and it's fell down. So one moment.
If you're a new player, when is the point you want to join? Now, obviously, all of you have joined at some point. You can join any day of the year. But when you could think of other MMOs, like, let's just use World of Warcraft as an example, there's a very clear point to join. It's when the expansions come out. You're not going to join World of Warcraft today. You're going to join it around the time the expansion comes out. You're going to join alongside other people. World of Warcraft get to sort of reimagine how the sort of progression through the game is thought of. With Old School, it's very difficult to create that really strong point in time to say, okay, if you are interested in Old School, join now. You'll be surrounded by other people at the same time, part of a community, and so on. So the thinking is creating a mode like Fresh Start, where you can temporarily be in a separate server, playing alongside other people, it's a good chance to do so. So I say this as we're looking primarily at brand new people and at people who maybe haven't played Oldschool for a long time, or maybe played RuneScape back in the day and want to come back today. That's where I feel like it could be effective. Now, that's yet to be proven out. This is a bit of an experiment in that regard, and we'll learn certainly along the way. Primarily, what I don't want to do is actually move people from main Oldschool to this. Nor do I really want people to feel like they want to create a second account to play this. That's not really what we intend to do with Fresh Start Worlds at all. And that's where I feel it is very different to leagues, other game modes, and so on. This is about trying to create something that can be of interest to new players or long lapsed players. So we'll see. But that's why I think it's the way it is, in that you'll come along, this is why you're starting a new account, because it's aimed at new people completely to start on that account. That's also why we want to merge it into main eventually after 6 months, is so that this is your entry point. It's a way to get into the game and then stick around and join the wider community at a point of your choosing or after the 6 months is up. But yeah, certainly it's been a lot of reading and a lot of thinking about the different points people have been making online, and it's all stuff we're processing and really trying to think of and understand. I mean, we might touch on it later, but obviously one of the leading concerns is this point about the economy, things going into the economy after 6 months. These are things we still need to really think a little bit more about and really make sure that we are okay with that happening. We think the economy will be good after that change, but yeah, this doesn't really end in any sort of specific way. I just wanted to sort of put across my thoughts. I'll pass back to you, Ayiza.
No, I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you, Kieren. I think it offered a good level of insight, at least. Next question. So this one says, additional game modes can segment the old school community whilst also taking up valuable dev resources away from the game. Are Fresh Start servers going to take up a lot of dev resources from the main game? And are leadership concerned about the number of game modes that are in Old School? Maybe you want to take this one, Markos.
Yeah, sure. So, like, Fresh Start Service is a relatively cheap update, as kind of Kieren said a moment ago. We don't expect it to take up that much resource. It will be done relatively quickly compared to kind of most of the updates we do. And as you'll have seen, the design's relatively simple for what we've implemented. Game modes themselves, we generally see as being, they have like clear value in the sense that they are, they give players an opportunity to re-experience parts of the game in different ways from what they've seen before. And things like leagues are also quite good at creating like a strong moment in time, which kind of gets people back into the game and encourages them to try it out again and so on. But we do recognise there's a balance to be had. Obviously, we need to make sure that we're, while we do some game modes, there will always be content that's going into the main game that people really like and is fun, kind of engages them and so on. So for 2022 overall, we had a league in January, and now we're about to have the Fresh Start Worlds in October. So we've had the two kind of modes there, kind of bookending the year more or less. We also obviously had some conversation before about kind of quest speed running and stuff, which is a kind of game mode, but very, very different experience, I'd say. And in terms of like what we want to do in the future, I think that we'll probably be looking at a similar-ish balance. We've got like a provisional roadmap for 2023 that we'll cover in more detail in the future live stream. But we would probably be looking to strike a similar balance where the vast majority of the updates are all going into the main game, and there are maybe a couple of game modes across the year. And one of the things obviously we've spoken about before is obviously like what we do with things like Dead Man in the future as well. We are trying to think about what we can do to kind of refresh that a bit.
Great, thank you. Kieren, anything to add, or should we move on?
I think we should move on.
All right, perfect. So next question should be a quick one. How much of the player survey that was run a few months ago, or RuneScape 3's plans, or RuneScape as I like to say, how much did their plans to introduce Fresh Start Worlds influence your decision to proceed with the idea of Fresh Start servers for Old School?
I can answer that. So the idea has been kind of floating around for a while. There's been some discussion on it, even like reasonable spread over like the last year or so, I think. So it's been an idea we've been kind of discussing for a while, and the obviously, like, we did look at the survey results, and we looked at kind of like what responses were across like different types of players and so on as well. And we've also been talking to RuneScape a bit as they've been kind of developing the ideas in parallel. So yes to kind of all those things, I suppose.
All right, great, thank you. Probably also a really quick answer to give to this one, but are Fresh Start Worlds a complete replacement for leagues?
No, they're completely separate.
Okay, and then to follow on from there, also leagues related, when's the Leagues 4 coming, and can the players have any information about it?
So yeah, Mod Kieren and I were discussing this a bit earlier. In fact, it's an ongoing discussion. The team, we would like to do another league. We haven't settled on a design yet. So it might be something we reach out to talk to the players about in the future potentially.
Okay, I'll ask a question that just pries a little bit more info in there. Is it realistic to expect a league this year, or are we talking more next year?
It will be 2023. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That hopefully answers a lot of questions I think players have been raising in the past, at least. Next question then. This is a big one, so bear with me. Why do players need a brand new account to play on the Fresh Start Worlds? Typically, players don't require new accounts for other game modes like Deadman and Leagues. Is this a way to entice members to pay for more subscriptions? Go ahead,
Do you want me
Markos.
to take this? Yeah. Okay. So kind of tying into kind of what Kieren talked about earlier, really. So the fundamental kind of audience we expect to be playing Fresh Start Worlds are kind of long lapse players and new players. So obviously the key thing is about creating a shared starting point, and that means that realistically it needs to be a new account, kind of starting the experience from scratch. We don't really expect it to be a thing that the currently highly active players will particularly be playing. Like obviously there is a free-to-play part of it, so you can go and experience it if you want to just generally see what it's like. But it wasn't really it was never in our mind to try and encourage people to kind of get extra subscriptions to play and things. We thought that the target audience is very much people that don't currently play the game.
Okay, that makes sense. Kieren, do you have anything else that you want to add on that?
Yeah, just to add to it. I mean, one of the key things we wanted to do with this was, as I say, it's a good chance to start an account. It's a good point in time to join the game first time and then stick around and play for the long run. Now, that meant we wanted to bring your account into, main old school after 6 months. And if we didn't do it on a separate account, we open it up ourselves to a problem. Because if you already have a main account save, we would need to introduce a whole much more complex, long development cost to create like a proper sort of character selection system, because you would have 2 main accounts essentially. That is not something we can reasonably actually do. We're not trying to get people to double dip here. That genuinely, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, is that this is about people coming back, people joining the game for the first time. It's inevitable. Some of you are probably going to be interested and want to play this and enjoy that experience. But genuinely, this is about new people coming to the game and people long time returning. But currently, we don't really have a strong technical solution to allow you to choose between multiple accounts on main. The way it works for like leagues is quite different. That's not trying to play in the same game mode.
Thank you, Kieren. That makes sense. I think maybe that's something that we haven't actually mentioned the full announcement as of yet, right? We've only really kind of like came alongside RuneScape's announcement and gave an FAQ to give some insights into what we felt were going to be the big hot topic questions that were being asked. We are still yet to put out the full details, and I think it's probably very worthwhile there that we actually go into a bit more detail around the technicalities of why it's a new account versus migrating and what that would have meant in terms of change. Because I do think there is a significant difference, and by the sounds of it, being able to have 2 accounts running simultaneously, and what is the main game, because I assume that's how we're able to do this low development cost. It's just another version of old school that runs simultaneously and gets updated in the same way, so on and so forth, versus, as you say, 2 accounts running, or even having to merge experience and items over to an existing character, especially when we have limited tools at the moment when it comes to items and player profiles. But yeah, we'll take that one on and hopefully be able to explain a little bit more of at least if that's something that you're interested in. Next question, and this is in regards to our approach to Fresh Start Worlds. Why did we decide to implement them without polling how the current community feels about it?
Do you want me to answer that one? Yep.
So
this is essentially following a precedent. So historically, when we introduced kind of new modes like this, as much as I understand it, typically we poll the rewards rather than the mode itself. And because there's no rewards attached to Fresh Start Worlds, because like Mods Ayiza was just saying, it is essentially a parallel like facsimile of the main game, we didn't think it would be appropriate to poll it in this case.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Another big topic here in regards to the economy. How is this going to affect the economy once Fresh Start Worlds is over and all the accounts are migrated over to the main servers? Is it something that's been taken into consideration? Like
it's certainly something we need to think about. I'll take this, Mark, if that's all right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's essentially something we'll have to keep an eye on. It's going to be quite a unique effect. We've never, had a situation where like a 6-month-old set of accounts have come in at once. Now, I don't think it's true that all those 6-month-old accounts are going to log on and dump everything on the Grand Exchange, but that's not to say it won't make an impact. Now, something people have said and talked about is that when you're playing on a fresh start, the G is going to have nothing. It's going to be a harder environment than playing on the main server. The difference is you'll be part of a community with like-minded people, and that's a unique experience in of itself. But essentially, in those first 6 months, it's going to be primarily low-level items rather than high-end equipment like twisted bows. Not to say there wouldn't be any, but generally the feeling I have, roughly looking at those kind of, that kind of content, the kind of stuff that's going to come in, is that it's going to be a drop in the ocean, is my general expectation. But we need to do more research on it and really confirm that, especially as the servers go, how popular they are, how many people are playing it. That's how we're going to be able to make an assessment. But right now, all we can do is estimate how many people will play, and so it's hard to get a good gauge on it.
Great, thank you. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Markos, or should we move on?
Yeah, Kieran's answered that really well, I think.
All right, fantastic. Sorry, I'll just check on these last few questions just to make sure, but this is the last one that we have regarding Fresh Start Worlds. And this one ties more towards our existing player base. I think it's quite clear that Fresh Start Worlds, we've said they're not intended to provide a new experience to the existing player base. Have we maybe considered releasing 2011 Scape or a much earlier, even bringing back RuneScape Classic instead of Fresh Start Worlds to provide a new and unique experience to players?
Yeah, we've looked at lots of options of similar things to this. So generally, these kind of updates, they sound straightforward, but actually they're really complicated. It's generally what I found. So in many of these cases, they're interesting ideas, but they're very, very complicated and expensive to do. Like they're quite significant projects. It will take a long time to deliver to the standard we think they'd need to be. So I say never on these things. Obviously, you could revisit them in the future, but at the moment, they're not something we expect to be doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Mark. All right, we'll move on to server stability. You can hear more about Fresh Start Worlds in the near future when we have our full announcement. But if you do have any kind of like burning questions that you felt haven't been answered, reach out to us on our usual platforms and we'll do our best to try and get back to you on those. In terms of server stability though, first question here, and apologies, it's a bit of a long one, so I'll try my best to read proficiently. What can you do to improve the current server quality and stability? There are slow logins / hop-in on worlds. World lag is reported after 400 or so people are in one world, and the 222 total world in general has pretty common reports of lag. When the servers become highly populated, especially, and when players do activities that are more server intensive, servers seem to run poorly, which in end causes issues. Now I know that we've had a response from one of our tech team. Markos or Kieren, do you want to take it, or do you want me to go for it?
I can talk through it. It's something I've been thinking about, talking to others about this week as well. So essentially, we're actively looking to improve all aspects of game performance. This is something that comes up every single week. We're talking about it. It's stuff that we're constantly sort of monitoring and trying to make little tweaks, trying to find the fixes that we can address, because it's not just one thing. It's multiple different things. This ranges from optimizing and improving the game server, even just the content logic where it's not written optimally, to refreshing, migrating the game worlds themselves. This is always happening, but it's also delicate, intricate. It's not straightforward work. We're also in the process of refreshing much of our actual hardware, and we're constantly reviewing much of our tech stack. So, as I say, it's kind of all the things at once, and everything will contribute to hopefully better game world performance. There's various different causes of this. I mean, people allude to like 400 population. Sometimes it's slow hopping. Sometimes it's a lot of the total level worlds, like the 2200 worlds, experience a lot of lag. Most of these are actually different causes, and we're having to sort of investigate, add different telemetry, and really try and understand what are the primary causes, so we can make changes and try and fix some of these things. But yeah, it's not straightforward, but hopefully we can start to improve it. And indeed, we already have made changes, and we've seen improvements even there. It's just that we haven't tackled all of the problems.
Great, thank you, Kieren. By the sounds of it, simply downloading more RAM is not going to help in this instance. Unfortunately, a lot more involved than that, which makes sense with how old the game is. But I certainly look forward to seeing when we can finally break through with that one change that just helps with everything. Maybe we'll find it. But I guess the TLDR.
Can we run the servers on your PC?
Well, I mean, new computer, but I didn't even set my green screen up, so like clearly I'm probably not the man for the job, unfortunately. New computer's great though. Yeah, a lot to go into it, but we are aware and we are trying. So yeah, you may also have noticed, more recent maintenance and such as well. They're not because we just don't want you to play the game. We are actively trying to get these issues fixed. And I guess all I can really say to wrap that up is we just appreciate your patience whilst we look to get them sorted. I know that it's frustrating. We experience it ourselves as players. So, talking about performance, will the release of Tombs of a Massacre have a negative impact on server performance?
No, we don't think so. As a matter of fact, Tombs of a Massacre, we've actually got a whole bunch of newer engine and tech integrations, and you'll hopefully see some of that in the animation work that's gone into the content as well. But yeah, next week, as I said earlier, next Wednesday the new raid comes out, and I honestly, I'm so pumped about it. It's really hit me this week, like, oh my god, it's happening next week. Really, really exciting. And it really does, like, it looks phenomenal. Some of the graphics work going in, some of the ideas for the mechanics are really, really quite cool. So can't wait to watch all the streams on Wednesday next week.
You saw the dev diary and got hyped, didn't you, Kieren? Don't lie to us.
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be a poopy dungeon, apparently.
Unfortunately, we have ended up with a rather poopy dungeon, as Mod West said. Okay, I'll take it back to a more serious note, just very briefly. Can we address the recent world crashes and potentially say if there's anything being done to restore lost items in Group Iron Man storage for those who have been affected by a world crash?
So the recent world crashes, they were it wasn't caused by any kind of anything malicious or anything. It was more just a native bug in the architecture. So we've kind of identified that, and we're kind of like fixing it appropriately. So hopefully stop that in the future.
I know as well that from our side, we have reached out to various players that had reported that they'd lost items. So if you haven't already had a message from us, if you had a message from us and not yet responded, please do so. We are looking to do the best that we can given the situation that occurred. But fingers crossed, now that the bug has been resolved, this won't be an issue again, even if the worlds do experience crashes. But again, please just let us know, and we'll do what we can. All right, in terms of Roadmap, RuneFest, Summer Summit, and dev resources, let's get into these questions. First of all, Can you explain where the roadmap is to the players, and will there be a summer summit? 3 questions in one. What can players expect to see in the next 6 to 12 months?
So we've got a roadmap that goes out to end of next year, along with ideas for like further on than that as well. In the short term, we're talking about doing a summer summit type event, which we're currently in planning at the moment. And we're also looking at how those kind of events, like how regularly we do them and things as well. So maybe they're a bit more regular than before. And then for the roadmap, we'll begin to unveil that with the events and try to kind of progressively update players a bit better in terms of what's coming in the future.
Great, that's awesome. I am really looking forward to the Summer Summit. I think the last one did really good, so fingers crossed we get to see that soon. And we have a lot of really exciting stuff. I know we say this all the time, and I think if I was on the other end of the screen, I'd be getting really frustrated by now, because it's always like there's something really exciting we just can't say just yet. But there genuinely is. I'm really looking forward to how the roadmap is shaping up, at least. So a lot of work's gone into it. Hopefully, when we do share that through the summit, however long away that may be from now, you're similarly hyped. All right. So this one's more about Runefest, but still around sharing information. Typically, DragX used to share input on upcoming news via Runefest. Will there be a Runefest happening this year? If not, when? Now, we already know that Mod Pips has confirmed it hasn't been scrapped via a tweet, but we've heard nothing else since. Can you give any more details about Runefest, please?
Yeah, so to be clear, there won't be a Runefest this year, which I imagine most people have already realised. But we do want to do something like along those lines in the future, potentially. Obviously, with everything that's happened in the last couple of years around the world, obviously the challenge of doing these kind of events is quite different from before. But yeah, we are keen to try and get something like that up and running again. We're trying to see what's kind of practical and what kind of options we're doing a similar type of event.
Great, thank you, Mark. Okay, now dev resources. Players will often equate the number of devs on the Oldschool team to the frequency and the quality of game updates. Players are looking for more main game content to be added. So, are we hiring more developers to give content to the players faster than what's currently available?
Yes, I guess the simple answer. So, yeah, we are looking to hire more developers. It's probably worth reiterating that it's not quite as simple as the more developers you've got, the more content that gets released as well, because sometimes the developers are on like quite complex long-term projects that mean that maybe it's not obvious that stuff's being released, but when it is get released, it's a very large update maybe. But yeah, the goal is we would like to, we're looking to add in extra developers and then maintain like a steady release schedule of content to the main game, largely as we've done this year, I feel.
Great, thank you, Mark. Kieren, by the way, if you ever want to add anything, just feel free to interject, even if I'm reading out the next question. You are more than welcome to interrupt me. I know the delay can cause issues.
I will say one thing. We are going to be putting up a role for a junior content developer in the very near future. So I'm particularly keen to bring in somebody who knows the game really well. So that might be you in the chat if you're interested. But keep an eye out. I'll post about it when it's up.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Kieren. Hey, who knows? Maybe you get to do your interview during the live stream. I'm not going to advocate for that one, actually. Probably not a good idea. It could be interesting. All right. Okay. Oh, we've got a question about polling in here. So we've had one poll this year, which has taken a long time to release. It was blogged in February and has still yet to have some of the items come out, such as Poison Dynamite. This is in reference to poll 76. Why is it that those changes have taken over 6 months to release? And also, is there any information we can share about poll 77?
So poll 77 is being planned at the moment, like we were talking about at stand-up this morning. For poll 76, what kind of happened is that the people working on that on the releases for that, they ended up having to do helping out with some other updates. Some of which were a bit larger than originally planned. And then also their dev team's been a bit smaller than previous years. So we're looking to try and bring back an extra dev into that team to help them release the updates for the next poll more quickly.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. If I may, I think it's also just one thing that's worth just iterating is that Whilst this is an excuse, because it is, we should have been able to identify it much sooner on when it came to polling poll 76. But I think it's fair to say some of the changes ended up being a lot bigger than we first anticipated when we were scoping them out and agreeing to put them in forward for the poll. Because, you know, the poll 70, well, poll numbers, the qual polls or game improvement polls that we do, they are meant to typically be the smaller, faster changes that we can turn around on a consistent basis. You get them, you know, trickled out throughout the weeks over the course of other content pieces coming out, and we just missed the mark. So I think some of them, especially in, you know, the sense of like Poison Dynamite, I can't remember the hit splats, I think, touched on so much combat code. Maybe there's something you can talk to about that one, Kieren. But from what I understand, it ended up going on a lot longer than we had originally planned. So yeah, while still an excuse, it is partly the reason as well why things took a lot longer. So something that we'll be more mindful of with poll 77 for sure.
Yeah, the other one that's been more of a pain than expected is the clan hall. The clan hall drop stuff. God, what's it called? The chest.
The drop party.
Chest thing. The drop party feature for the clan halls. Yeah, that's proved a lot more difficult than we first anticipated. So some of these have taken a lot longer. We've had a couple of people leave as well. So it's, as much as it's excuses, I'd like to be transparent and also talk more about when this sort of thing happens and be smarter with how we size pools and feature as well, so that we have more regular pools, even if going out, even if they're a bit smaller too.
Sure, I'd like that. I'd like to see much smaller but more consistent polls going out, just so that it, you know, we avoid this issue in its first right. But okay, moving away from quality of life, how about a little bit of PvP? What are our future plans with Deadman mode and Bounty Hunter? I know you touched briefly on Deadman before, Markos, about like refreshing it, but is there any more that you can say regarding that, and Bounty Hunter especially? I know is a hot topic within PvP at the moment.
Yeah, so generally with the PvP schedule for next year, we're currently looking at, obviously it was the survey that went out recently, and we've been doing our own kind of analysis of kind of activity in the game and so on. So we're looking to build out our roadmap for PvP content next year generally. We have like a short list of ideas. So Deadman mode is something that we think is obviously like valuable to the players, and the PvP community is really keen on. So we would like to revisit that, although we recognise we need to probably make some changes because there's trying to avoid some of the issues we've had before. And then Bounty Hunter is also something we have looked at. Obviously, it's a complicated update to do well. So we're looking at that along with a few different other ideas as around what we could possibly do in PvP in the future.
Just on sticking with PvP, I just add the we're really happy with how the LMS update's gone. That's been out a little while now, and it's really been interesting to see people's choices on like which mode they like to play. Maybe we should give out some data soon, Ayiza, on what we got the other day, because I think it's actually really interesting.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. I'll double check it. I really want to say one of the stats now because I was pleasantly surprised to see it, but I'll hold. One of the options was more popular than I anticipated it being, basically, which was nice to see. Okay, moving. Oh, in the same theme of PvP, then, do we have any more news on the Wilderness boss rework project? And why has this project taken a longer time than expected to release? I'll kick it off very quickly by saying that we actually released the blog today, and no, it wasn't intentional. We'd already planned to do this before we pulled the question into the Q&A. It just ended up being a lot sooner than we'd first thought. Mod Goblin did some fantastic work on getting it ready. We were actually going to release the blog at the end of this month after TOA had kind of settled down after the first 2 weeks, but we thought, hey, why not? We'll get it out sooner, and hopefully you've enjoyed reading it. As I said, check it out, have a look through it. There's a lot of detail in there. Fill out the survey, let us know your thoughts. And Markos, maybe you can talk to more about the project and how long it's taken, and maybe when it's expected to release as well.
Say about the release date. It's reasonably not that far away. Is that a fair description?
I think so.
So in terms of the general, like, why it's taken a while, so I think that we originally talked about it quite some time ago, didn't we? So I think it was a question of being able to find some people who are free to kind of work on it and so on. And I think the previous project they were working on just took a bit longer than expected. So that's why it's not come out as quickly as we'd like. But we're obviously keen to get it released.
Fantastic. Thank you, Markos. I was hoping that you'd maybe say, because All right, spoiler alert, chat. We have some guidance in our Q&A document that has, just some help in case we get stuck and I fumble, because I do fumble a lot, to bring me back on track. And there's a particular phrase in here that says when we would be expecting to release it, but Markos went on the more conservative side. He said
Oh
a
yeah,
few
I think
months. But
yeah, I think I spent yeah. Okay, so we were looking at. I think it's an autumn release, and off the top of my head. So
there we
we're
go.
thinking.
Thank you.
It's not
Sorry, I
immediate, but
just
it's not
needed to do it. It's very
far away.
soon. So basically that confirms this year, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the intention. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you both. Can we maybe give some more information about the future of the mobile client and what changes might be upcoming on that?
Yeah, so we did a blog last week.
Sorry,
Kieran.
Yeah, it was around. It was very recent. Yeah. We've done a couple of iterations of that blog as well, talking about the UI for mobile. So, problem number one: people love all the RuneLite features, right? But so many of you use RuneLite on desktop. You cannot use RuneLite on mobile. We want to let you have that better experience, and so we spent a lot of time working on those features, bringing a lot of them over to that client. So you'll already notice if you go on mobile, a lot of those features are in place, and it really does make a huge difference. Because of that, we've also spent some time looking at other related mobile improvements like haptic feedback. So, you hold down a right click on something and you get that little buzz under your finger, so you know exactly when it comes up. It feels really satisfying. It's a big difference. We've improved the response time, how long it takes to right click as well. But some of these features are going to need interactive elements added to the interface, whether it's showing you helpful advice, whether it's being able to highlight tiles and having a method to implement that. So we needed to look at how the interface is laid out on mobile so that we could create a bit more space for that and also try and make some improvements at the same time. So that's what we've been doing, and that's the contents of very much of that blog, talking about the UI. But safe to say, I think mobile is already a drastic improvement over what the mobile experience was last year, and we expect it to further improve with every new drop of these client features that we add over the coming months.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Kieren. Markos, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Kieran's described that really well.
Okay, I only asked because we're going into the next section now, which covers some areas around account security, anti-cheating, and player support. First question on here is, will there be more third-party client bans, or was it a one-time thing?
So that's an ongoing process. So yeah, it's a permanent initiative that's running in the background the whole time.
Right. So that means bans are happening. Well, I know bans are happening regularly because I see people complain about them being banned on Reddit and then being smacked down by Tyrant or some sorts or Twisted.
Yeah, it's a constant thing we're always working on.
Yeah. So yeah, just as a reminder for anyone out there, don't use clients that aren't on our approved list. And if you need a reminder of those, that is the Steam client, the Java client, RuneLite, and OSBuddy. Basically, if you can load it through the Jagex launcher, you are safe. And if you use any other clients, then you do risk being banned. More than one offense, it leads to a permaban. So yeah. All right. Actually, I should also include mobile. You're safe to play on mobile. Don't worry about that. And also HDOS. There are so many. Yeah, as I was thinking, it was like coming into my mind. Like, okay, don't forget those two. Which is looking fantastic. Well, I don't know if you've seen, but HDOS released a video recently showing over their Varrock rework. It looks incredible. I sat there in awe over like 20 minutes plus of footage. It looked great. Hopefully I just redeemed myself there. Okay. Can we maybe give any updates to account security and the Jagex launcher progress since the last leadership live stream in March?
Yeah. So we think the new account system will be rolling out again. It's another kind of awesome update. We need to give you a more exact kind of date soon. But that's essentially a new account system which includes all the extra security features that we've kind of discussed previously. there'll be some work to kind of like make sure your current account works with the account system and things. I think we probably need to do another live stream with the account team to kind of explain how that works and also go through the features in more detail and things. Again, I think that the mods came on before to do that, and hopefully we can get them back on a live stream soon. Because of just the sheer volume of accounts that have been created over time, and because some of them in, obviously, like you get quite different states all the accounts are in because we've changed a lot over the time, it's going to take multiple months realistically to roll all this stuff out, I suspect. But it will be kind of done like systematically in terms of going through different types of accounts. For the launcher, we've previously talked about things like adding like multi-account support and so on. So we're looking to do like progressive updates to the launcher over like the next few months. So that will include things like multi-account support. We want to be able to get the new C++ clients into the launcher very soon as well. And we're also looking to see what other kind of updates can be kind of delivered and kind of like improve your experience. So we're going to ask the platform team to kind of come back on this stream at some point, go through that video.
Fantastic, thank you, Markos. I actually, again, wasn't scripted. It was already booked in before the stream was arranged, but I had a meeting with the publishing platform team today, talking about how we can actually communicate some of the updates and changes that are coming out, and I can pretty much confirm what Markos has just said there. Over the next few months, you'll be seeing some changes and progress. So look out on socials for updates of information. I believe we'll have a blog coming out in the next month or so that kind of goes over everything to expect at least. So yeah. All right, I think we've got time for 2 more questions. It will be a relatively shorter stream than normal, but I think we are actually pretty much at the end of all of them, which is great, apart from more generic questions. So we get through these 2. The next one being, are you planning to do anything about the Grand Exchange spam bots?
Yes, I guess the short answer. So we are looking, like within the team, like various people have flagged up to me the issue around spam bots as a thing. So we are looking at different options around that of how we can kind of tackle the problem.
Great, thank you, Markos. I realised that, and this is no flame on you, but it's kind of like an answer of no answer. But you just kind of have to trust us in that we're well aware of the problem. Definitely do want to look at fixing it. It's something that has been raised even more so recently, and I know that discussions are ongoing because I'm involved in them in regards to how we can help tackle them short-term and more of a long-term solution. We're just not at a point where we're able to actually share what those are because it's still very early. I'm hopeful, though, that similar with getting the publishing team on board with more live streams in regards to the launcher, that we can maybe do the same with the support team and talk about updates and progress on there, because there's quite a lot changing, which I think people will be really excited for. But yeah, I apologize once more for kind of asking you to believe in us, but hopefully we'll be able to share details in terms of what we want to do going forward with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think, like you suggest, getting our experienced team onto the stream would be really good, so that they're working on some really interesting things I think the players will want to see. For
sure. Okay, and now the last question on here, and it is that there are many places online to buy gold, sell accounts, services, etc. What are Jagex doing to combat this?
So similar to the question on bots, this is something that we've always kind of dealt with in terms of in the background. Maybe we don't really publicize that we're doing it too much. But yeah, we are constantly trying to identify these places and kind of get them shut down.
Okay. Thank you, Markos. I'm not even going to try and expand on that because I know a lot of it is under the hood kind of legalities that I simply don't understand. So I'll leave it to the professionals. All right, brilliant. Is there anything else, Kieren or Markos, that you wanted to cover that we haven't had a chance to, or a point that you wanted to expand on that we haven't yet done so?
I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff today.
Thanks for tuning in.
Fair amount. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 23 questions in total we managed to get through, which is a pretty good record, I think. All right, well, I appreciate both of you. Thank you so much for the input. I'm just going to quickly blast through the announcements once more. First one is !info TOA. If you want to learn everything you need to know about Tombs of a Massacre, you can do so with the link in that command. That's !info TOA. In addition to that, we also have !TOA, and that is so that you can check out the brand new developer diary for Rage 3. It is an awesome watch. The team's done a fantastic job. It goes into a little bit of detail in regards to what you can expect from the raid, shows off a few of the environments, the paths, the bosses themselves, as well as conversation from our JMods that worked on the update, as well as some of the players that helped test it out and make it as great as it's going to be. And then last but not least, !WBR. And that will take you straight to the Wilderness Boss Rework blog. They have been due a little TLC for a while now, so check out our first design of the upcoming Wilderness Boss Rework with !WBR. There's a link to the survey at the bottom. Please click the link, fill out the survey, but only after you've read the whole blog. It might take you a little bit of time, but trust me, it's worth it. There's some exciting stuff in there. And we'll be iterating that over the course of the next few weeks. I think the last thing to just mention, because this will be the last stream until it releases, but Wednesday, the 24th of August, Tombs of Amaska is actually available for players. How amazing. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Kieren, what do you think is going to be the highlight of the release?
Seeing the first proper completion. And that's
what do you
always
consider
going to be
a
one of the
proper
ones to look
completion, though?
forward to.
Are you a normal completion or full invocations? What are you looking at?
Well, all of them I think are really quite interesting. No invocations I expect will be beat fairly soon. And then normal and expert, so to speak, will take a bit longer. But yeah, seeing that, so when we see the first normal completion and see the first expert completion, I think those will be thrilling moments. But particularly when people first see that final boss fight, which obviously we've shown very little of. And I can't wait for people to see it and really get into that fight. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. And there's a video coming out soon, right, Ayiza, you mentioned?
There is. It should be dropping in around about 7 or so minutes. So keep an eye out on our YouTube channel. We'll also post it out on socials. But it was a video that we worked on with a creator, 2 creators, in fact, actually. So hopefully you enjoy it. It's been an absolute pleasure to put it together. But yeah, that will wrap up our leadership live stream for today. Once again, I've been your host, Mods Ayiza. I've been joined by Mods Markos and Mods Kieren. Thank you both so much for all of your answers and input today. Thank you as well, everyone at home, for tuning in. Hopefully you got some of the important questions that you wanted answered. We'll hope to do a little bit more regular cadence of the leadership live streams, I feel. I think December was probably a little bit too far away from the last one, but we have had a lot going on, so it's understandable at least. But yeah, have a fantastic one. Thank you as well to everyone who helped moderate the chat, as well as fantastic Mod Spear for helping out on the production and not hiding my cam when my green screen fell down. That's going to be it for this evening. Have a fantastic evening. Enjoy the rest of your day, weekend, and we'll see you next week in the Tombs of Amaska, ready to take on... Oh, I don't know if I can say that, actually. It might be a leak. Never mind. Bye.
Bye.